Cape Coral, Florida, is often seen as a quiet place. Palm trees, neighborhoods filled with families, tourists enjoying warm weather, and teenagers spending spring break hanging out with friends. But on March 17, 2024, that peaceful image was shattered forever. 15-year-old Kayla Rincon-Miller was spending the evening with two close friends. Like many teenagers on spring break, they decided to go see a movie at the Coralwood Theater. It was supposed to be a fun and simple night. A movie, food afterward, then home. But none of them knew they were being watched. After the movie ended, the girls began walking toward a nearby McDonald's. It was late. The streets were darker now. Traffic had slowed down. According to investigators, sometime during that walk, a silver Nissan Pathfinder began circling the area. At first, the girls probably didn't think much about it. Cars passed through that area all the time. But witnesses later said the SUV seemed to be following them. Then suddenly, the headlights turned directly toward the girls. The bright lights temporarily blinded them, and seconds later, several masked individuals jumped out of the vehicle. What happened next would become the center of a massive murder investigation. According to prosecutors, the suspects planned to rob the girls. The attackers reportedly demanded money. Everything happened fast. Too fast. One of the surviving girls later said she initially thought it was some kind of prank. But then, a gunshot exploded into the night. Kayla Rincon-Miller collapsed onto the ground. The suspects ran back to the SUV and disappeared into the darkness. Panic immediately took over. Her friends screamed for help. People nearby rushed toward the scene. Emergency crews arrived quickly. But the damage had already been done. Kayla had been shot in the chest. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Doctors tried desperately to save her life. But despite their efforts, 15-year-old Kayla Rincon-Miller died from her injuries. News of the murder spread quickly across Cape Coral. Parents were terrified. A random teenager had just been murdered after leaving a movie theater. And what made the crime even more disturbing was how senseless it appeared to be. Police immediately launched a homicide investigation. Detectives began collecting surveillance footage from nearby businesses, traffic cameras, witness statements, anything that could help identify the people inside the SUV. And investigators soon discovered that several cameras had captured parts of the vehicle's movements that night. The SUV was identified as a silver Nissan Pathfinder. That breakthrough would become critical. As detectives traced the vehicle, attention began turning toward local teenagers. Eventually, investigators identified two key suspects: Christopher Horn Jr. and Thomas Stein. Both were teenagers at the time of the crime, and according to police, the evidence against them started piling up quickly. Investigators allegedly connected the suspects through surveillance footage, cell phone data, witness statements, and information gathered during interviews. But what truly shocked investigators was what allegedly happened after the shooting. Authorities later claimed the suspects attempted to destroy evidence. Phones were reportedly discarded, and prosecutors later said the murder weapon had been thrown into a river. Investigators believed the teens were trying to erase every connection to the crime, but the case against them kept growing stronger. As police continued building their timeline, another disturbing detail emerged. Witnesses reported that multiple individuals had exited the SUV during the robbery attempt. Some early reports suggested there may have been as many as 4 attackers. But eventually, prosecutors focused heavily on 2 names: Thomas Stein and Christopher Horn Jr. And as the investigation intensified, so did the pressure. Detectives wanted answers. Who fired the gun? But in the end, the jury sided with the prosecution. Thomas Stein was convicted of first-degree felony murder and multiple counts of attempted robbery with a firearm. He now faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. But before Stein's sentencing, Christopher Horn Jr. faced judgment first. On May 19, 2026, Horn appeared in court for sentencing. By that point, he was 18 years old, but he had been only 16 at the time of the crime. The courtroom was filled with emotion. Family members of Kayla Rincon-Miller sat only feet away from the teenager who had admitted involvement in the events leading to her death. Then Horn addressed the court directly, and what he said quickly made headlines. "I'm not a monster," he told the judge. He claimed that struggles and demons from his childhood had impacted his life and decisions. He apologized to Kayla's family. He apologized to the surviving victims. But for many people, no apology could erase what happened that night. Judge Nicholas Thompson sentenced Christopher Horn Jr. to 25 years in state prison for second-degree murder. He also received additional sentences for attempted robbery charges. Because Horn was a juvenile during the crime, Florida law requires a judicial review after 15 years to determine whether whether his sentence should be modified or reduced. The judge also ordered him to have absolutely no contact with the victims' families. And just like that, another chapter in the case came to an end. But even after the convictions, questions still remain. Were there more suspects involved? Did investigators identify everyone inside the SUV? Did Horn tell the complete truth? Or was his testimony shaped by the plea deal? Those questions continue to spark debate online and among people who closely followed the case. But one fact remains undeniable. A 15-year-old girl lost her life during what should have been an ordinary night with friends. And an entire community was left traumatized by the violence. The murder of Kayla Rincon-Miller became more than just another headline. It became a painful reminder of how quickly lives can change forever. One moment, teenagers laughing after a movie. The next, police tape, ambulances, and grieving parents standing in a courtroom. For Kayla's family, the pain will never fully disappear. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone she never got to experience, will always serve as another reminder of what was taken from them that night in Cape Coral. And for the surviving friends who witnessed the shooting, the trauma of those few seconds may follow them forever. As of now, Thomas Stein still faces sentencing for his role in the crime, and many people continue watching closely to see what happens next. Because while the courtroom trials may eventually end, the emotional impact of this case never truly will. Christopher Horn Jr. was sentenced to 25 years in prison after accepting a plea deal and testifying against Thomas Stein. Thomas Stein was later convicted of first-degree felony murder and attempted robbery charges and could face life in prison at sentencing. The murder of Kayla Rincon-Miller remains one of the most heartbreaking teen homicide cases in recent Florida history. A random attempted robbery, a single gunshot, and a young life lost forever. What do you think about this case? Do you believe Christopher Horn Jr. told the full truth during his testimony? Or do you think there are still unanswered questions surrounding what really happened that night? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this documentary, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another true crime story.